Welcome to the Cyclical Doula podcast. I'm Emma, a certified Sympto-Pro instructor, a fertility awareness educator, and your guide to fertility coaching and reproductive health education from menarche to menopause and all the different types of motherhood in between. If you're seeking a natural, science-backed approach to managing your fertility, understanding your cycle, or simply connecting with your body in a new way, you're in the right place. Each episode is designed to empower you with the tools, knowledge, and confidence you need to thrive in your unique journey. Quick disclaimer, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice or individualized charting support. For specific guidance, please consult with your healthcare provider or fertility awareness instructor. Now, let's dive into today's topic.
Welcome to the space where cycles breathe, where the real raw life of a mama leads. From motherhood's highs to charting the low, your body's story is the star of the show. Matriarch heart.
Welcome back to the Cyclical Doula podcast. Today, I am so excited to have this conversation that so many women have been waiting years to hear reflected back with honesty, clarity, and compassion. If you've ever been told that your pain is normal, or you've walked out of an appointment feeling dismissed, confused, or questioning your own experience, we hope this episode gives you the kind of support that you've dreamed of. I'm joined today by Isabelle, a board-certified holistic nutritionist, a certified dietary supplement professional, and the founder of Sunrise Wellness and Holistic Health. Isabelle has had her own long road with endometriosis and chronic illness, and she's taken that lived experience and turned it into a mission to help women feel heard, supported, and empowered in their own bodies. Her work blends that holistic nutrition, nervous system support, inflammation management, and mineral balancing, as well as real-life advocacies, all with the goal of changing the narrative on women's health. So today we're going to be talking about things like endometriosis, medical gaslighting, hormones, and what it means to rebuild your trust in your body after you've been dismissed for far too long. So I'm so excited today to have Isabelle here with me to talk through this. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. So I'd love to just hear a little bit more about like who you are outside of work and all of this amazing bio that you have to get started so that people can know a little bit more about who you are.
Yeah, so I'm a person that loves to spend my time with my family and friends. My family's big on family traditions and stuff like that, especially around the holidays, which we're approaching that time of the year.
Yeah.
I love going to the beach. I am a big summer girl. Anything like that. Also, I love to sing too.
Awesome. That's great. So fun. And what's like one rhythm or ritual that you has been supporting you lately or you like always go back to?
Yeah, so I think establishing a good bedtime routine is one ritual that I really have been getting into, especially like keeping the lights low a few hours before bedtime, not eating a certain number of hours, like 3 to 4 hours before laying down and going to sleep. A lot of those types of things are really important. That's been my like biggest ritual I've been into lately.
I love that. That sounds so cool. Do you have a specific like lighting routine? You said like lower lights. Do you use a specific routine around like your lighting system? Because I feel like that could be like such a deep dive into what that would look like.
Yeah, so honestly, I just have like very low lighting in my room. Like my main lights will be off, but I'll sit there and like whatever, watch TV or whatever, with just like white Christmas lights around my room. And there's just like 2 strands of white Christmas lights that I have like, bordering my doorway and my closet and stuff like that. And I just keep very minimal lighting or like some nice candles to have around. Like I have little electronic candles, which are cute. And I do that kind of stuff to just keep the lighting low in my room and just to have like ambiance kind of lighting and not main lighting.
I love that. That's awesome. So cool. What about like what's been filling your cup lately? What's one thing to help people get to know you that's been filling your cup lately?
Yeah, honestly, I love my daily walk. That really fills my cup.
Ooh,
I take like a 30-minute outside walk every day. Of course, I live in Massachusetts, so like weather is very temperamental. Especially right now, it's really unseasonably cold right now. But as much as I can, my mom and I will take like our daily walks outside together, and it's like such a reset. Even if I'm working from home during the day, sometimes midday I'll take like a nice walk, and it's such like it's refreshing, and then I feel like I can go back and like be in a good mindset to go back to work again, which is great.
Absolutely. I always feel like when I remember to make that a priority of like putting that into my schedule, I'm always like, oh, I need to do this more because this is a great reset and and things like that.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, tell me a little bit more about like what led you into your work and your this journey on like holistic health and women at health advocacy.
Yeah, so honestly, I was going to school to be a physical therapist. I was midway through college and I kind of hit a really low point with my health. I was clinically diagnosed with endometriosis at 18 after years and years in high school of having terrible periods to the point that like my mom would contemplate calling an ER or ambulance for me
Yeah.
um, because my periods were so, so bad. And it was almost like having the flu that like I'd be rocking in pain, like the stomach bug and flu and like labor all at the same time.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely sickening what I was going through. And so finally, a doctor had heard me at 18 and I got a clinical diagnosis. I've not had the surgery for endometriosis. I do like to, preface that. It's just not a route that I've personally wanted to go down yet. Not saying it's not a future thing for me, but it's at the
Right.
moment
It's a
what's best for me.
significant choice. Yeah, for sure.
It is. And for a person like myself, I also have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a connective tissue disorder. So it makes it really hard for me to recover from surgery. Even
Yeah.
my wisdom teeth surgery was a 6-week recovery that I was literally on
Oh,
soft and
wow.
baby foods for 6 weeks.
Oh,
So
man.
I haven't committed to the endo
Yeah.
surgery
Yeah. That
yet.
sounds like a big commitment for sure.
Especially for just diagnostic purposes. If I'm
Yeah,
gonna do it, I wanna have, like, the full
for
excision
sure.
surgery,
Yeah.
stuff like that, and go down the right path for that. So anyways, I tried a lot of different medications and, was on, like, injections at one point and stuff, and I still was just, like, barely making it up the stairs in college. Like,
Mm,
I also have POTS too, so when my pain is bad, it will flare than my POTS, and I will get very lightheaded. I was at the time keeping Gatorades on me and stuff because I was just
yeah.
on the verge of passing out all the time from the pain. Um, and so my chiropractor, who I've seen since I was like 15 years old, she had said a holistic practitioner just joined our practice and you should really see her. And I was like, I don't know what holistic medicine is. I'm like, I'll just give it a go. I'll try it.
Yeah.
And she changed my life, honestly. Like I won't say that I'm cured, or anything like that. But my life is improved in the way that I feel like I have tools in my toolbox to get through my day better of daily
Mhm.
anti-inflammatories to take and homeopathic remedies for cramps when they come on that they're bad. Um,
Yeah.
the hormone balancing, addressing the root cause and gut health and all those types of things really just made such a huge difference that I actually switched my major, not my major because I was still a health science major in
Right.
public health. So either way, my undergrad major stayed the same.
Yeah.
But I switched my career path from physical therapy to holistic medicine because of the change that she made in my life. And she's such a wonderful person. She's a friend of myself, still of my family. I
Yeah.
can't say enough great things about her that I looked at her my senior year of college and I was like, I want to do what you do. Can I be your like
Yeah.
intern for my public health internship that I have
Right.
to do? She goes, of course you can. And I just fell in love with the field. She just taught me how speaking to people, because I've dealt with so much medical gaslighting that we'll get into that. I'm sure. And she just spoke to me in a way that I was like her equal and a human
Yeah.
being that is suffering. And she heard me in a different way. And I just really have wanted to project that and share that with other people. And I end up specializing in women's health because of the what women go through and deal with, and they sometimes just need a listening ear more than they need treatment,
For
to be
sure.
honest with you, for
Absolutely.
what they've been
Yeah.
through. And I have seen that even in my own practice. So that's kind of how I got into it. Crazily enough, I didn't even know, besides a
Yeah.
couple supplements, that this whole field of medicine existed.
Absolutely. Yeah, that sounds like such a what an experience to be able to have like that person and then the like whole field to be able to help you through that journey. But I feel like sometimes one of those things where like there's that one person that just like helps us switch the mindset of like how to
Yeah.
approach things like this too. And it's so amazing to have people that are just like there to listen
Hmm.
and really support us all. Yeah, so
Absolutely.
you kind of mentioned it, but was there any more of like a particular moment or it seems like finding these resources and having this like was the big change for your um dealing with endometriosis and your chronic illness, but is there like another moment that feels like it has reshaped your view on women's health, or is it really just the story that you told?
Honestly, there was another dynamic to it too.
Yeah.
I believe I was a freshman or sophomore in college, still around all the same time frame. This was a
Yeah.
little before actually I'd met my holistic practitioner. But this friend of mine, who's now my best friend, we had like mutual people that we knew, and she has endometriosis, and she was really struggling at the time, and wanted somebody to talk to, and she had heard through mutual people that I had it. And so she messaged me on Facebook and like sent me a private message and was like, "Hey, I've heard through so and so that, you have endo and I didn't know if you'd want to connect." And
Mhm.
we this was oh my god, probably 8 years ago or so, and we
Yeah.
are still the best of friends today.
That's
And
awesome.
I just had a very different viewpoint of women's health before, like that
Yeah.
you're supposed to hide when you have a period, that this is embarrassing to talk about.
Mhm.
I would not be here on a podcast talking today if it wasn't for her, because
Yeah.
we broke down like so many barriers, like even for me, that like there's nothing held back between her and I anyways. Um but we shared stories and talked about what
Yeah.
we had been through and with this endo journey. And I was like, okay, this isn't something I need to hide and be embarrassed of from other people.
Mhm.
Because of her and how open she was with me and I became with her, we actually ended up together starting an Endo Sisters Instagram page for awareness purposes. I'm the only one that runs it now. She's too busy for that in her life now, but it's part of even my business and my practice, and I've become like an advocate for that. But we really bonded over endometriosis and what women go through and what we've been through, that I became so much more open in talking about my own health.
Yeah.
So that was a very big turning point for me of this openness that I found through this friendship of mine.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I feel like so much of women's health is just having these conversations and like having
Yeah,
it not be something that's should be shamed or just like kind of whispered. I feel like
right.
it's been such a relief for me. Like, so I don't know how much you know about fertility awareness based methods or natural family planning, but like having, like, those conversations, I give presentations monthly about, like, just how to do it in, like, an
Mhm.
introduction, and the amount of times that I say cervical mucus in that presentation, I'm always like, "People probably are, like, a little turned off by this
Oh,
because we're just not
jeez.
talking about it as much," right? But if we're just
Right.
changing those conversations, and I feel like, that's sounds like exactly what you're doing, is just having those conversations, talking about your experience, talking about um, health and women's health in general and what periods are really
Mhm.
supposed to look like and how pain can be managed throughout a cycle and all of those things. Sometimes like you said, like that's enough to like get started and feel supported.
Exactly, exactly. That
Yeah.
one thing can change your life, and really, her messaging me on Facebook really changed my whole perspective on communication, the power of that between women.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about your experience with endometriosis or like what you either yourself specifically or how you work with other women um and what's the like the biggest myth that people, or maybe like a couple of myths
Hmm.
that people are coming with the experience around endometriosis, and then like what's the truth behind it, the facts behind it?
Yeah, so one of the biggest myths that really got me was and hindered me in my journey to getting help that
Yeah.
I needed is that periods are not supposed to be painful. Like
Right.
debilitatingly painful, that you miss work, school, you can't function or leave the house, or
Right.
you need a hospital. That's or you think about going to a hospital. That's what really is a huge myth, that like I a lot of doctors, like even the one that I grew up with, a pediatrician, and I would explain every year that I go in, I'm like, well, I'm dealing with really bad, heavy, painful periods. Oh, this is
Yeah.
what women go through. And this is what I hear from a lot of my clients that will come in even not with an endometriosis diagnosis or any diagnosis of any kind. And they're
Right.
being told that it's normal to live with painful periods and heavy
Right.
periods or huge clots that come out. And I'm like, that's not supposed to happen. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, then you're not being heard, because
Right.
that's one of the biggest things like I talk about all the time is advocacy, is
Hmm.
really telling people. I've told so many women this: you need to go and re-talk to your OBGYN or your primary care, whoever's in charge of your health and wellness, and
Right.
really tell them that you're experiencing this and that you don't feel like it's normal to just live like this.
Yeah.
Um, I was at the point I lost weight because I was throwing up so much with my periods, and
Oh,
I just
yeah.
felt like absolute garbage all the time. And my parents had all kinds of blood work run on me. They were worried I had like cancer or something horrible
Right.
because my
Yeah.
fatigue was terrible. I was in so much pain all the time, and nobody was recognizing it. And of course, they did
Hmm.
lab work. Everything's normal. You're fine. And I just kept being told I was fine all the time. That it really, now, even that I'm older, like if I'm not in the middle of a flare, I'm like, am I fine? You
Yeah.
for that
Yeah.
split second, because of the amount of gaslighting you grew up at such a young age with, it's like, okay, well, am I questioning my own self? And like, you have to tell yourself, well, you can have a good day and don't let the good days take away from the bad days, as opposite as that sound, and don't
Yeah.
gaslight yourself. So, and I see so many women even online that will post their stories and say the same thing, that it's just, they're not being heard properly. And that's a
Right.
huge problem, that they're
It's
being
huge.
told that these things are normal that they're living through. And it's just
Hmm.
crazy, really.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I've had my own experiences with that too, but I think it is a common occurrence of like, okay, like we say in society and in our circles of women, I think, like, I have a heavy period, but like, what, like, does that mean, like, qualification wise? And I feel like that's one of those things where once you get down to the nitty gritty of like how many period products are you using, or like, can you actually calculate
Right.
how much blood loss you're having in the time of that you're bleeding in a cycle, like, that is then so eye-opening. I feel like when I realized that the, like, max of, like, towards heavy, that's healthy for a period blood loss over the course of however long your menses is 80 milliliters. Like, that's, like, for a lot of people who say they have heavy bleeding, that's, like, such a small amount compared to, like, the amount of blood that they're losing when you, like, do the calculations.
Yeah, or when, like, you look at the box of a tampon or pad
Yeah,
and it says it should last up to 8 hours, and I
yeah.
was at the point I was changing one every 45 minutes to an hour. I'm like,
Right.
"Okay, this isn't normal to live like that."
Absolutely, and I think that's one of those things where, like, it's just shoved under the rug consistently, and I think part of it's just not having conversations about,
Right.
like, what periods are supposed to look like, and then I also think a lot of it is just having like, not having that knowledge base of, like, okay, like, if you're using a period product this often, like, that is concerning. You are losing a lot of blood, and that can be it can be
Yeah,
a whole lot of reasons behind that. It's not absolutely endometriosis, but that's
right.
one of the factors to it, and finding those root causes is so important. What do you recommend for women, like, if they feel like they're experiencing a lot of, like, blood loss, or they're experiencing a lot of this pain? What's, like, your recommendation for a first step of, other than just, like, bringing it back up to some type of healthcare professional, but what's your recommendation to, like, start that health process of getting support?
Let's take a quick moment for a little brain break and talk about something different. Have you ever wished someone could just sit down with you and magically tell you when you were going to get your period next? Or maybe tell you exactly which days you can and can't get pregnant? That's the beauty of charting. Once you understand your cycle, it stops feeling like this random guessing game and starts feeling like a pattern you can actually trust. I promise it's not as complicated as it might seem. Your body is already giving you all the clues. You just need someone to show you how to read them. That's exactly what I'm doing right now while finishing my Fertility Knowledge Collective certification. I'm still looking for a few clients to work with me for 3 months of online cycle coaching and charting support. We'll meet virtually, review your real life signs like cervical mucus and temperature, and help you build skills you can use for the rest of your life. And as part of my certification process, this round is pay what you can. So if you've ever thought, I just wish someone would guide me, this is your chance. To get in touch with me, either message me on Instagram at cyclical doula or text FKC just so I know that what we're talking about to 854-220-0218. I'll send you the details and we can figure out if this is a good fit for you. Okay, let's get back into the episode.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like, if the one person you keep going back to is not listening to you, I advocate for changing your doctor.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
and go find a new one because it's not if they're not listening to you or that you have the same one for a while and they stop listening to you or they say I'm running out of options for you, go find a fresh perspective because
Yeah.
the same perspective is not going to help you. And I also advocate for having multiple people in your medical and health and wellness team,
Mhm.
whether that be somebody like myself that's a holistic practitioner, an OBGYN, it doesn't matter if it's a chiropractor, a PT. You want multiple people in your space to go to as sources. You don't want to just depend on one practitioner. And that's a
Yeah.
big thing that I advocate for all the time is
Yeah.
saying who's in your sphere, who's in your medical team that you can see. Even for myself, I have two physical therapists now. I have a chiropractor, I have other doctors. Like you want to make sure you've got plenty of people in your toolbox again to say
Yeah.
like who can I for this problem go to for this, and you want to
Yeah.
have enough resources in your pocket.
Yeah. That's awesome. Absolutely. I 100%. Do you feel like so for somebody who like doesn't know what a holistic practitioner is, tell me like what when someone comes to you with some of these experiences, what does this look like working with? Obviously, like it's very specific to the individual, but like what generally
Yes,
does this
yes.
look like?
Yeah, so generally it looks like, my first initial consult with people is basically a get to know you session. I give a
Yeah.
1 hour consult for people to tell me their story. I have an intake form that I have people fill out ahead of time. And it asks all like the subjective questions. When you go into a regular medical setting, it's going to be just the questions of what's your diagnoses, what's your, medications you're
Right.
taking, and how often do you exercise? There's
Right.
not a lot of depth to those intake forms. For mine, it's all like subjective based. So it's going to ask you, how is your stress management? How is your diet? How is your GI? Do you have anxiety or depression that you're dealing with? It's asks everything, and then it goes into like ranking different things on like a scale of 1 to 5 of on a scale of 1 to 5 how good do you think you manage your stress, how good do you think
Mm,
your diet is, how and it asks how good your sleep is, all these different things of
right.
um it asks you like specifically, do you have indigestion, do you have bloating that you deal with, and then it goes into all the women's health stuff of how long are your cycles, and
Right.
um do you have pain with your periods? Do you have ovulation pain? Do you have to miss school or work because of your periods? How's your flow? So I ask all the questions that and I give people time not only to answer them, and I like to have it back to me to review ahead of time before the appointment,
Right.
but then we sit and we go through it all together too and have a good conversation about it. Like I have the facts, I have the information, but now I want to hear your story that goes with that. So that's what my process is. That's what it looks like to work with a holistic practitioner. The word holistic people get very like turned off by because it's like, oh, it's just like alternative medicine. We diss regular medicine. I'm very much integrative that like I take regular medications myself. If you do, I'm not going to, tell you if you're going to work with me, you have to get off of them. It's,
Yeah.
holistic, the word means to bring all the different areas of health and wellness together and have
Mhm.
that blend, holistic meaning whole body, whole mind, body wellness,
Right.
and bring like I said, bringing it all together for a full picture. So that's I don't look at anything of one dynamic. And then after that I run what's called bioresonance hair analysis testing. And it's about a 25-page report on health optimization. So it does food sensitivities. So it compares your body against 2,000 different food and food components. So it does like seasonings, spices, fruits, vegetables, meats,
Yeah.
grains, all the different proteins and sugar and dairy. It's crazy because it asks like it does gluten-free greens versus regular greens. So it really gives a full encompassing look of what you're sensitive to as you as a person. Then it does environmental sensitivities, which for women coming in, a lot of the parabens are really important to look at too. Because it will
Right.
show like different parabens that you're sensitive to or different chemicals. But also does like your seasonal allergy things like, outdoor things like animals and trees and flowers, whatever as
Yeah.
well. It tests for sensitivity to molds, then it does all the nutrient deficiencies, vitamins, minerals that you're depleted in, and then it gives like all the food sources. of like what you can do to add into your diet these
Ooh,
nutrients
that's
more.
cool.
And then I'll supplement things that are like, again, if you're a person that deals with like a lot of stress, for example, and you come up depleted in magnesium, then that may be a good fit for you if you're super depleted in magnesium to have a magnesium supplement rather than just doing it through food. So again, it's very tailored to the person.
Right.
And then it does two aspects of your gut health, one on your gut microbiome, so exact what pre and probiotics you're missing from your gut, and then your digestive health and metabolism to see what macronutrients you're not breaking down, what enzymes you're missing to break down your foods. Um, then it also does your hormonal imbalances as well. So male, female hormones, things like FSH, estrogen, testosterone all will come up, as well as your thyroid hormones like TSH, T4, T3, things like that. So I put together all the pieces of the puzzle to see, because again, I don't look at anything in isolation. You can be coming
Right.
in for your period, but we're going to look at your gut health because your
Right.
GI
It's
system and your reproductive system are sitting right next to each other. So
for
if your
sure.
gut microbiome is off, we got to fix that in order to start working on your period. So it's a very all encompassing look, and especially women with endo too. You have a lot of these different things like IBS symptoms will come up, and your
Right.
nervous system's dysregulated because your stress is terrible and the fatigue. So it's looking at all these different things together of what we can do to optimize your health and wellness. And I design a plan for everybody as an individual. So I take your symptoms, your health goals, and I put it together with your lab results that come back, and that's kind of how I design protocols for people. And then I check in with people every 6 to 8 weeks, add more to the protocol, and then, change things up if they're not working, and just keep peeling back the layers of the onion because, unlike, regular medicine, this is not like a band aid, one size fits all approach. This is
Right.
very, very tailored to you as a specific individual. So that's as a holistic practitioner what I do in my practice.
Yeah, that's amazing. I think like, and you said that's all just from that hair analysis test. Or are you also
Yes.
doing like some gut stuff as well? Or
No, that's
you
just
get it all from
a,
there. That's so
all from
cool.
hair. Yeah.
Yeah, I've like heard a decent amount about that, but I feel like it's one of those things that every time it gets brought up, like those hair analysis, like there's so much information that you can get from there. It's so cool. So tell
Exactly.
me a little bit more, either like your story or what you see with patients, clients, like what you're seeing with the people that you're working with about um specifically endometriosis, because I feel like that's one of those things that just like is a lot of people are experiencing but like don't yet have it diagnosed and like all of those things. So what are some things that we're seeing to support women who are experiencing endometriosis? Obviously, like there's going to be some things that's specifically tailored to an
Yeah.
individual, but do you feel like there's a lot of things that are like broad across the board that can help women with endometriosis?
Yeah, I mean, definitely, again, doing health optimization all around is really important.
Yeah.
Finding out what foods are you're sensitive to are really crucial for inflammation because there's so many fad diets out there that will just
Yes.
tell you to just go gluten free. And well, you can have sensitivities to all the gluten free grains and not gluten, and you're actually hurting yourself because you're making
Yeah.
your inflammation worse. Or fruits or vegetables. Like for myself, I was drinking a smoothie that had pineapple in it like every day one summer before I did this hair test. And I don't even like pineapple, but I'm like, it's anti inflammatory. It's going to be good for
Right.
my inflammation. I
Right.
was drinking it every day to the point that I was having contact dermatitis in my ears. My ears were itching so badly.
Oh,
And I did
man.
this test and I was 100% intolerant to pineapples. And guess what? When I took pineapples out, my ears didn't itch anymore. So I was actually perpetuating a process of inflammation that my
Mhm.
body was not responding to. So definitely knowing what your triggers are is a
Yeah.
huge thing with endo because you want to be, again, on a, like, I don't want to use the word diet, but a like that's a journey that's really like lifestyle eating is my word that I like to
Yeah.
use,
Yep.
that's specific to you as a human being.
Right.
Um, and then addressing inflammation is obviously a huge one. There's some good daily anti-inflammatory supplements that I like. But again, you can have intolerances to the ingredients, so I only would give those to people based upon what herbs they may be sensitive to.
Yeah.
Um, so that's really important. There's a lot of lifestyle things I do work on with women too, of again minimizing their exposure to different ingredients and parabens and endocrine disrupting chemicals, those are all really universal things that like
Yeah,
women can do,
for
is
sure.
really knowing what your exposure is like in your environment, and trying to minimize that. And really working on stress is a huge one because
Mm,
I'm sure at least most women with endo are dealing with stress or any chronic illness, because dealing with
yeah,
chronic pain and medical gaslighting are super stressful. So
yeah,
you want to work on, again, daily practices to minimize your stress, reset your nervous system. Those things are super important. Again, whatever works for you, like mine is a daily walk. That
right.
for me is very resetting mentally.
Yeah,
Even if I don't feel well, my mom will be like, "Are you sure you want to walk today? You really don't feel great." And I'm like, "But it's great for me mentally. Like I'll be
yeah,
okay, because even if I had to take a shorter walk, because it's really resetting." So you have to find those kind of things that work for you. And I do work with women on stress management as well.
for
Um,
sure.
and then working on gut health is a huge one with endo as well, because again, those your systems are so connected all the time that
Yeah,
you want to make sure, because like a lot of women deal with IBS symptoms. They're like, I have constipation one day and diarrhea the next, and you got to try to see what you can do to reset your gut microbiome. And if you need digestive enzymes, or optimizing, correcting nutrient deficiencies, all those things are super important when it comes to that as well.
that's so cool. Yeah, I think like that's amazing. I think obviously like it's gonna be so specific to an individual, but I think it's
Yes.
helpful to hear that like yes, there's things that people are gonna do across the board, but like somebody's markers for what's gonna inflame their body is gonna be
Mhm.
so different compared to somebody else. And
100%.
that's I think that's really important to remember, especially, like, in the world that we're in right now of like, it's so easy to see somebody recommend a supplement on Instagram or whatever of like, "This
Yes.
helped me so much," and then trying to take it yourself, which, like, I wouldn't recommend taking a supplement
No.
without, like, any type of medical support, but, like, people do, right? Like, they're influenced to take these things, and sometimes it makes them feel so much worse, like you were saying, just, like, with your pineapple experience, like, that
Right.
seems like such, like, a little thing, it's a natural food, like, why would you even think about, like, that being harmful? But it's such
Right.
a important thing to think about how specific we are to our bodies, as a whole, an individual, what's really working for us. Yeah.
Yeah, because like I said, and I'm a very big advocate for that too, that everybody, even if you have the same diagnosis, has different symptoms. You have
Yeah.
different comorbid conditions. So you have to treat everybody as an individual, because you don't know what they're dealing with. And endo is
Yeah.
crazy because it can be silent for some women and they don't know until they're dealing with infertility down the road. And other women
Right.
are super fertile who have endometriosis but have dealt with horrible pain. So it
Yeah.
really, and then the staging of it has nothing to do with how severe your symptoms are. So it's just one of those things that, like, everybody deals with different symptoms. You just really have to address root cause of what you're dealing with.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so good. And then you mentioned earlier, but I don't think we like defined this for people who might not know this. You mentioned that you're clinically diagnosed with
Mhm.
endometriosis. Can you explain the difference between just if somebody hasn't heard this before, with that and like what it looks like to have endometriosis diagnosed with a surgery? Is that
Yeah,
easy
so
to like explain the difference?
yeah, yeah. So clinical diagnosis just means based upon your symptoms.
Yeah.
So, if you come in presenting with X, Y, and Z, and a doctor finally does recognize it, they just give you a clinical diagnosis of
Yeah.
endometriosis, that, they haven't opened you up and done the biopsy of the tissues and stuff like that, to stage you and such and confirm the diagnosis through surgery. That's what surgery technique is. It's used for treating and also diagnosing. I'm really hoping, because I've seen some research coming out, that they're trying to get different methods of
Yeah.
diagnosis for endo, and it'd be really awesome if they could make that progress, because I think it's really barbaric for women to just get a confirmation of diagnosis to have to be opened up and intubated like under anesthesia. Like
Right.
that's terrible in my opinion. Um and for women to have to go through that just for a diagnosis, to be confirmed. But
Yeah.
if you can find a doctor that, just at least can recognize what you're dealing with and give you that clinical diagnosis of, based
Hmm.
upon your symptoms, what you're dealing with, and knows what you're dealing with is not normal, then that's what I did. That's what I got,
Yeah.
a clinical diagnosis.
Absolutely. And what do you think that helps other than like saying it out loud, like I have a clinical diagnosis of endometriosis, like how do you feel like that helps women either advocate for themselves better or like understand their bodies better or get support better versus just being like, I'm seeing these symptoms on a regular basis.
Well, I mean, first of all, like getting treatment sooner, whether that is, again, of all the different routes you can take of holistic medicine to
Yeah.
optimize your health and wellness, or PT to get some pelvic floor physical therapy done, or medication, whatever works for you to be able to know that. But also, yeah, validation is good too, to know that what you're going through is just not normalized.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that's really important too, to not put you into that box of women that are like, oh yeah, I'm dismissed and I have terrible painful periods, and that, oh yeah, that happens.
Yeah.
So that in itself is very validating to at least get the clinical diagnosis of it.
Right.
And some doctors don't love a clinical diagnosis, but even in my huge paper that I was writing at the end of my last year of my master's degree, I was doing a lot of research on endometriosis. And I think it was Harvard Health, don't quote me on that, that it said something along the lines of that they're advocating for a clinical diagnosis for women to get for endo, because then they can seek out treatment sooner.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
it's breaking down at least that barrier, that if you're waiting for surgery, again, if somebody like me is not a great candidate for surgery,
Right.
and you have a slow healing time from other comorbid conditions, then then a clinical diagnosis would be more suitable for you to be able to pursue treatment in whatever way, shape, or form helps you. So, I think, again, there's a lot of conflict on that. And I
Yeah.
understand where people want the confirmation of diagnosis, but I think, if you're suffering and it's not normal,
Yeah.
I think it can be pretty validating at least to get the clinical one.
For sure. Absolutely. I could totally see that's such a I feel like sometimes having diagnosis in general, like, can feel validating of all of the symptoms and the experiences that you have, and I think that sometimes that really helps with the, like, medical system gaslighting too, and I don't know if you wanna talk about that more specifically. We kinda mentioned it a little bit earlier, but just, like, I think, like, sometimes it's easier when you're going into situations to say that you have a specific diagnosis because 'cause you're heard differently, which is not the way that it should be, but I think that it is unfortunately something that we see often.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, and I honestly just even got the last two diagnoses of I have hypermobile EDS along with POTS, and I just got those diagnoses in 2023. So I'm pretty new to even those ones.
Yeah.
And it's just like that kind of validating feeling, the same that I gotten when I had the endo diagnosis, and this was just even further because like you deal with all these what feels like random symptoms
Yeah.
that like for me, it's like even just with the EDS, it's like I have random hives and I have random things that like move in my body, like joints out of place, and the passing out for no reason, and my heart rate being high, but my blood pressure is low, and all these different things. It's like, well, why? It puts that
Yeah.
it helps get that why answered, to at
Mhm.
least get those clinical diagnoses to be like sent on your way, and at least feel like you've been heard and it makes sense to you
Absolutely.
and to a doctor. And you know I don't know if that answers the question or
Yeah, no,
not.
I think so. I think that's great. Yeah, I think so like tell me more a little bit about what you wish every woman like knew about her body and her symptoms and her power with all of the experience that you have.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wish every woman knew that, like, no matter what stage of life you're in, suffering should not be normal.
Mm,
So, I think that's a huge one that I advocate for. And it's like, I'll have women that will come into me and be like, oh, yeah, I don't feel well, or I have very like irregular cycles, but they've told me it's normal. And, I don't feel well most of the time, but they've said it's normal. Like,
right.
I don't care what I think women, no matter if it's like reproductive related or not, women even with GI issues will come into me and
Yeah.
tell me how normalized their symptoms are. It's crazy because I don't hear about that with men as much. And I just wish women knew that like suffering is not the normal.
Yeah.
That's one point that I'd love to drive home. Whether you're 13 years old and getting your first regular period and you are buckled over in pain and vomiting, and to know that, I love to even talk to children more and be like,
Yeah.
And just know when you're entering middle school and this is all changing that this isn't normal for you to go through this. And even I educate women with menopause to be like, you should not just be sitting here suffering and be told, like, I don't know if that's menopause related. It could be not, you'll get through it. Like, that's a 10-year time frame that women
Yeah.
go through perimenopause, and they're just being told, you know, there's not much we can do unless you go on like HRT. And like, you can,
Yeah.
and I think that's fine if you do, but like, don't just be told that, like, eh, it happens. Like,
Right.
no
Right.
matter
Right.
what stage of life you're in. It's just, I
Right.
think that's what I see a lot is just the suffering being just normalized all the time.
Yeah, man, absolutely. I think that's like across the board. I see that in so many aspects of women's health and just like women's lives in general, not just their health. Um, it's so it's so much talked about like, well, like that's just normal or like that's just the experience that you have as
Right.
women. And that's not like most of it is like not the case. And a lot of it is because we haven't studied women's bodies specifically enough and all of
Yeah.
those things too.
Or like, it's
Absolutely.
blamed on anxiety a lot. Women
Yeah.
are just
Yeah,
anxious people. Like, we're anxious because you're not listening to us. We're getting really stressed out because of it. Like,
for sure.
it's an anxiety that's like developed over time. Even for myself, I remember going to the OBGYN back, I think I was a freshman in college. And I had said I literally had a panic attack because I was trying to get to college and I was a commuter and I could not physically get in the car and drive myself because my cramps were so horrifying that I missed class. And I was in a health science major. It's not one you miss classes for.
Right.
And not that you do for college classes, anyways,
Right,
but I
right.
was really stressed out about getting to class. And she's like, "Oh, so I'm hearing you have bad anxiety. Maybe an antidepressant would help." That's
Yes, for
not what
sure.
I'm saying.
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
That's
I
not
know.
going to fix the pain that I'm in.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I left with a Zoloft prescription. And I
Right,
didn't take it because I was like, I tried like almost arguing with her. I was like, I've taken enough biology classes and um psychology classes at this point to know that being on antidepressant alters your brain chemistry. And
right,
if you have altered brain chemistry and you need an antidepressant, I'm all for it. But
right,
you saying for my stress because I'm in so much pain that I can't get to class, that's the solution. It's not. The root cause is my pain and my endo.
right,
It's
right.
not my anxiety. And so that's where and I am not the only person. I've talked to plenty of women, and they all have said the same thing, or Facebook support groups that I'm in for endometriosis, and they all say the same thing. It's antidepressant for the pain if you mention that it happens to stress you out. Oh, it blocks the pain signals. And maybe
Yeah,
there's valid points in that, but
right,
she didn't like that I questioned it. And I was like,
right,
screw you. I'm like, I'm not sitting here. I don't need an antidepressant. I'm not depressed. I'm just so stressed out because I can't do what I need to do and function the way I need to function.
right.
So
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a rabbit hole. I could go on a whole
It,
tangent just about that.
for sure. Like, do you feel like women are often prescribed hormonal birth control for the same reason of just like, oh, like it's going to help get rid of the experience with endo symptoms?
Yeah, I think it is prescribed a lot. And I mean, I don't have anything against it. I think if it helps your symptom management,
Mm-hmm.
then that's great. But if
Yeah,
you're being put on it because you're told it's curing the condition or improving the condition, it's not.
yeah,
That's I think where if it helps you get through your day to day and you feel
right.
better because you're able to function better, then that's fine. But don't tell people it's curing or treating
Yeah.
the endo. I guess the word treating is better used to say it's stopping the growth or whatever. I don't believe that that's the case,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it just depends on the way you're using it and wording it to your patients, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
I had somebody kind of a GYN who said like, "Oh yeah, like your pain, your heavy bleeding, like you should just take a hormonal birth control and see if it goes away." Um as like to make it go away. And I was like, "Ooh, like not really. Like I'd rather do like hormonal testing or like look into more root cause stuff." And she was like, "Well, like that won't help. Like it's not hormonal." And I was like, but it could be. So it was just an interesting conversation, but I feel like that's often the case. But
Yeah.
I for sure, obviously, like if it's working well for people to help with their symptoms and management, then obviously like that's great. But
Right,
it's one
right.
of those things where it frustrates me as an individual and as somebody who works with people in their reproductive lives of like when you go into a conversation, especially with gynecologists, and you're asking about like helping and trying to advocate for yourself for all of these different things. And the solution is often either, like you said, something like an antidepressant or just like, oh, just go on a hormonal birth control because like that will just get rid of everything. But it never really finds that root cause or like what else you can do to support your body as a whole.
Right. And like I said, if any of those medications feel good for you and they help you get through your day to day, whether it is an antidepressant or birth control, it doesn't matter to
Yeah,
me. If it's helping you, wonderful, but don't let it fool you that it's the treatment or cure.
right.
I think that's the difference. Like I think we just have to respect people to make their own choices, but don't
For sure.
again almost dupe people into thinking it's going to do more than it does.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's absolutely for sure. What else do you feel like women listening to this, either like understanding what you do as in your practice or just understanding this all as a whole? Like, what do you hope people are taking away from this conversation?
Yeah, I hope people are just taking away from this conversation that there's more than you think to the story, that you can get further help and there's more out there and you can have some control over your own health and wellness journey.
Yeah.
That's one of the biggest things is I empower women with control over their health and wellness. I'll tell people, here's some suggestions, but you do what's best for you. Or I'll ask people during their appointments, like, do you feel like the digestive enzyme would be more suited for you right now? Or do you want to try this first or a probiotic? Or, I try to ask people, and I don't like to overwhelm people with options either,
Yeah.
because I just want people to feel like there's something that they can do. I guess that's the
Mm-hmm.
biggest takeaway. And I think that if anybody can leave this, it's that there is more help for you out there. There's more support, and you just have to seek out who would be a good fit for you
Mm-hmm.
and listen to your concerns. And I hope my clients walk away from their appointments and just say, I've been listened to today. Even if
Yeah.
I don't solve the world's problems or, fix everything, if they walk away feeling validated in their concerns and they walk away with feeling like there's hope,
Mm-hmm.
then that's all that I strive for, is really to
Yeah.
just help women feel heard in their concerns.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. So, if somebody is listening to this and they're like, "This is exactly the kind of support that I need," how can people reach out to you or get connected with either you specifically or somebody like you?
Yeah, so everybody's welcome to visit my website, which is sunrisewellnessholistic.net. You can follow me on Instagram at Sunrise Wellness Holistic, or you can send me an email at ig@sunrisewellnessholistic.net. Whatever works for you, you're welcome to contact me. I have a free 10-minute phone call that I also offer on my website that you can book right on there, and
Awesome.
see if we'd be a good fit to work with. So I'm always very upfront with people about the process and pricing and everything like that. So I always want people to walk away feeling like, again, that they have control over the situation. That if this is a good fit for them, great. If it's not, you're not obligated to work with me. Whatever works. And if you're
Yeah,
looking for more people, like to search for a holistic practitioner in your area, I can work with anybody in the U.S. over Zoom. Um,
perfect.
but if they're looking for somebody that they want to be more in person with or local, they can always search, do a quick Google search that way too.
Awesome. And do you see people locally to you?
Oh, of course. Yeah. I do have an office in Worcester, Massachusetts.
Awesome.
So if you're in the area, you're welcome to do an in person visit with me.
Perfect.
But I can work with anybody. I'm nationally board certified. So anybody in the US, I can do a Zoom meeting with too.
Sweet. That's great. That's awesome. Well, is there anything else you want to share to close up? It's been such an honor to talk to you and a great conversation.
I don't think so. I think we covered everything.
Yeah, awesome. Well, so good. I'm so glad you were here and to have this conversation. And I look forward to talking to you more too.
Yes, that'd be great. Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thanks so much for tuning into the Cyclical Doula podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean so much if you shared it with a friend or posted it on Instagram and tagged me at Cyclical Doula. If you've got a question you'd love to hear answered on the show, head over to emma.com/podcast to submit it. And don't forget, leaving a quick review really helps this podcast reach more people. Plus, if you upload a screenshot of your review on my website, I'll send you a special surprise as a thank you. You'll find all the details in the show notes about this show today, and I really appreciate you being here and listening in. I'll see you next time.
Welcome to the space where cycles breathe, where the real raw life of a mama leads, from motherhood's highs to charting the low. Your body's story is the star of the show. Matriarch hearts, cycles that speak, charting the truth in every peak. This is the cyclical doula sound, where body wisdom is always found. Matriarch hearts, cycles that speak, charting the truth in every peak. This is the cyclical doula sound, where body wisdom is always found.
Just a disclaimer and a reminder that any guests on the show are views of their own and not necessarily views of Emma LLC or Emma Goff herself. Thanks so much.